I'm Whitney. I'm 26. I'm a night shift nurse. The same morning, I finished a 12-hour ER shift, my hands still smelling like latex gloves and hospital soap. My father changed every lock on the house I'd been paying him $1,200 a month to live in. Then he texted me, "Your room is Megan's now. Come get your stuff from the lawn. Don't make a scene." My stuff, on the lawn, like trash day. By Friday, a sheriff's deputy was standing on his front porch with a stack of papers. What those papers said made my father physically sit down on the steps. But the real damage? That came 6 weeks later from a plain white envelope with Internal Revenue Service in the corner. Before I go on, if this story speaks to you, please hit like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with it. Drop your city and your local time in the comments. I love knowing where you all are when you hear this. Now let me take you back to a Tuesday in March. The morning everything I thought I knew about family fell apart. I moved back home after nursing school. That was 3 years ago. Not because I couldn't afford rent somewhere else. I could, but because my father, Gerald Warren, sat me down at the kitchen table one Sunday and said, "Why waste money on strangers when you can help family?" It made sense at the time. I was 23, just starting at St. Mary's Community Hospital, pulling overnight shifts in the ER. The idea of coming home to a place I already knew, with food in the fridge and a washer that didn't eat quarters, it sounded practical. Smart, even. So we made an arrangement. $1,200 a month. First of the month. No lease, no contract, just a handshake and a Zelle transfer. I typed rent in the memo line every single time. $1,200. That was more than a one-bedroom in our part of town. I knew that. But I told myself I was investing in family, helping with the mortgage, being a good daughter. Here's what being a good daughter looked like. I worked 12-hour night shifts, drove home at 7 in the morning, and made breakfast for the house before I slept. Eggs, toast, coffee, on the table by 7:30. I did laundry on Wednesdays, cleaned the bathrooms on Saturdays, took the trash out because nobody else remembered. Nobody said thank you. Not once. I'm not exaggerating, not once in 3 years. My sister Megan, 23, 2 years younger, lived in the room across the hall. She paid nothing, zero. I asked my father about it once, carefully, the way you ask about something you already know the answer to. He didn't even look up from the TV. "She's still finding herself, Whit. Don't be petty." I told myself it was temporary, that he'd see how hard I worked. I was wrong about a lot of things back then, but I was most wrong about that. Megan got engaged in February. Her boyfriend Tyler Brooks, 25, worked at a Toyota dealership off Route 9, proposed at a Red Lobster on Valentine's Day. Megan posted 14 photos, 312 likes. My father reacted like she'd won the Nobel Prize. Within a week, Gerald was planning an engagement party. At the house. 30 guests. Aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, Gerald's poker buddies. He ordered a custom banner from Etsy. He spent an entire Saturday repainting the living room, agreeable gray, Megan's choice. I watched him carry paint cans from the garage. 2 years ago, I'd asked him to repaint my bedroom. The ceiling had a brown water stain the size of a dinner plate. He said he'd get to it. He never did. Now here he was, 2 coats, blue painter's tape on every baseboard, whistling while he worked. Megan walked through the living room while I was scrubbing the kitchen floor for the party. "Whit, can you do those little cucumber sandwich things? You're good at this stuff." Not, "Can you help?" Not, "Would you mind?" Just, "You're good at this stuff." I said sure, because I always said sure. The week before the party, I came home from a shift and found Gerald standing in my bedroom doorway with a tape measure. He was measuring the wall where my desk sat. "What are you doing?" "Just thinking about storage." He rolled up the tape measure and walked past me without another word. I stood there in the doorway, still in my scrubs, and felt something I couldn't name yet. Storage. That's the word he used. I didn't think twice about it. I should have. Tuesday, March 11th. I clocked out of St. Mary's at 6:52 a.m. It had been a hard shift, a motorcycle accident at midnight, a grandmother coding at 3 a.m. We got her back, but barely. My hands were steady for 12 hours. They didn't start shaking until I turned onto my street. I saw the boxes first, Cardboard boxes on the lawn. 3 black trash bags next to them. A laundry basket tipped on its side, my clothes spilling onto the wet grass. My nursing textbooks stacked on the walkway, spines warping in the morning dew. I thought we'd been robbed. Then I saw the lock. New, brass, still shiny. I put my key in. It didn't turn. I tried again. Nothing. My phone buzzed. One text from my father. "Your room is Megan's now. Come get your stuff from the lawn. Don't make a scene." I read it 3 times. My thumb hovered over the call button. Then a second text came in, from my mother, Carol. "Honey, your father already decided. It's better this way." Better. That's the word she used. Better. I sat down on the porch step. The concrete was cold through my scrubs. My stethoscope was still around my neck. I looked at the lawn, at my clothes, my books, the small wooden box where I kept my college graduation tassel and my grandmother's earrings. It was sitting in a puddle. I sat there for 11 minutes. I know because I watched the clock on my dashboard from where I'd parked. 11 minutes of silence. Then I did something I'd never done in 26 years of being Gerald Warren's daughter. I stopped trying to be the good one. I didn't go inside. Couldn't, obviously. So I sat in my car and did math. 3 years. 12 months a year. $1,200 a month. $43,200. That's what I'd paid Gerald Warren to live in a room he just gave to my sister's fiancé. No notice, no conversation, no refund. I checked my savings account on my phone. $2,100. That's what 3 years of rent to Dad left me. Not enough for first and last month's deposit anywhere decent. Not enough for a security deposit. Not enough for a bed frame. I looked at the lawn again. Some of my things were already ruined. The dew had soaked through the cardboard. A photo album, my nursing school graduation, Grandma Ruth pinning my cap, was dark with moisture along the bottom edge. The pages would curl. They'd never lay flat again. My phone rang. Gerald. I let it ring. 5 rings. Voicemail. He left a message. I played it in the car with the windows up. "Whitney, don't be dramatic. Come pick up your things before the neighbors start asking questions. And don't call your grandmother about this. It's none of her business. Don't call your grandmother." He said that like a warning, like he knew exactly who would take my side and wanted to cut her off first. I turned off the engine, stared at the house I'd helped pay for, stared at the new brass lock catching the morning light like a middle finger. He planned it. He waited until I was gone, 12 hours overnight, guaranteed not to walk in, and he moved my life onto the lawn while I was putting IVs in strangers' arms. That changed something in me, quietly, permanently. I drove to the hospital, not because I had a shift, because it was the only place that felt safe. The break room on the 3rd floor has a couch that smells like burned coffee and vinyl. I sat there and cried. Not sobbing, just leaking. Tears running into my scrubs while I held a paper cup of water I never drank. Donna Castillo found me at 8:15. Donna's a charge nurse on the day shift, 34, Puerto Rican, built like a firecracker, married to a man who argues for a living. She took one look at me and closed the break room door. "Talk." I told her everything. The locks, the text, the lawn, the boxes. Donna didn't say, "I'm sorry." She didn't say, "That's terrible." She asked a question I didn't expect. "Did you pay him by Zelle or Venmo?" "Zelle. Every month." "What did you write in the memo?" "Rent." Donna pulled out her phone and called her husband Marco right there. She put it on speaker. Marco Castillo, real estate attorney, 7 years of practice, specializing in tenant disputes. He asked me 3 questions. Did I have a lease? No. How long had I been paying? 3 years. Did I have proof of payment? Yes. 36 Zelle transactions, every single one labeled rent. The line went quiet for a moment. "He just did an illegal lockout on a tenant at will," Marco said. "That's a violation in your state. Doesn't matter that it's family. Doesn't matter there's no paper lease." I stared at the phone. "What do I do?" "Screenshot every Zelle transaction tonight, every single one, and whatever you do, don't delete that text he sent you." Marco said one more thing before he hung up. "Has your father been reporting that rental income on his taxes?" I didn't know the answer, but I had a feeling he already did. I tried one more time. One last time. because I owed myself that, the knowledge that I'd asked before I acted. Tuesday night. I sat in Donna's guest room, charged my phone, and called Gerald. He picked up on the second ring. Dad, I need to talk about the room. Nothing to talk about. Decisions made. I've been paying you rent for 3 years. You were helping with the mortgage, that's not rent. You texted me rent's due by the 5th. Every month, Dad. Silence. 3 full seconds. I counted. Don't twist my words, Whitney. I need 30 days. That's all I'm asking. Your sister needs the room now. You're 26. Figure it out. Click. He hung up on me. Gerald Warren, the man who taught me to say please and thank you, who spanked me once for slamming a door because we don't disrespect this house, hung up on his daughter asking for 30 days' notice. I set the phone down on the nightstand. My hands were steady. I noticed that. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Not Gerald. Megan. Hey, Whit, can you come get the rest of your stuff tomorrow morning? Tyler's moving his desk in. Tyler's desk. In my room. The room with the water stain my father never painted over for me, but repainted in 48 hours for my sister. I didn't answer Megan. I opened my banking app instead. I scrolled through 3 years of Zelle transfers. 1,200, 1,200, 1,200. A rhythm as steady as a heartbeat. I took my first screenshot at 9:47 p.m. I didn't stop until I had all 36. Gerald didn't wait. By Wednesday morning, my phone was buzzing with texts from people I hadn't spoken to in months. Aunt Sandra, Gerald's younger sister, lives in Delaware. Opinions about everything. Texted at 7:15 a.m. Your dad says you're being difficult about moving out. Honey, Megan's getting married. Just be happy for her. Uncle Rick, Gerald's hunting buddy and brother-in-law, texted 20 minutes later. Gerald says you're demanding money from him? That's not like you, Whit. Demanding money. That's how he told it. I scrolled through the messages. 6 texts from 4 relatives in 2 hours. All variations of the same theme. Whitney is being selfish. Whitney is jealous of Megan. Whitney is making Gerald's life difficult. Nobody texted to ask me what happened. Not one of them called to hear my side. Gerald told his version, and the family passed it around like a casserole dish at Thanksgiving. Everyone took a serving. Nobody checked the ingredients. He wasn't just kicking me out. He was rewriting the story, so that when I fought back, I'd already be the villain. I sat at Donna's kitchen table and stared at my phone. I could feel the old instinct, the fixer in me, the peacemaker, the girl who always smoothed things over. She wanted to call everyone and explain. She wanted to say, "That's not what happened. Let me tell you my side." I put the phone face down on the table. Then I picked it up again and opened my Zelle history. 36 transactions, $43,200. I saved every screenshot to a cloud backup. Every memo line that said rent, every date, every dollar. Gerald was building a narrative. I was building a file. Wednesday morning. I drove back to the house to get whatever was left. Gerald had moved the remaining boxes to the front walkway. Not the porch, not the garage, but the walkway. Right where anyone driving by could see them. One was already splitting at the bottom from the weight. Mrs. Patterson from across the street was outside watering her azaleas. She watched me pull up. She watched me pop the trunk. She didn't look away. Gerald came out the front door. He was smiling. Not at me. At the street. Performing. "She's just picking up the rest of her things," he called over to Mrs. Patterson, loud enough for the whole block. "Kids, you know. Can't stay forever." I didn't respond. I picked up the first box. Winter clothes, a crock pot, a picture frame with a crack down the glass, my graduation photo, the one with Grandma Ruth. "Dad, I need to check my room for anything left behind." "Room's already Megan's. Nothing of yours in there." I looked through the front window as I passed. My bedroom, the room I'd paid $43,000 for, had been repainted. New curtains, new bedspread. Tyler's desk was already against the far wall. 2 days. He'd converted my entire life into someone else's office in 2 days. Gerald turned back to Mrs. Patterson and shrugged, grinning. "Tough love. Tough love." He called it tough love. I loaded the last box into my trunk. I didn't slam it. I closed it gently, deliberately. I wanted him to think I was giving up. I wasn't. But I did save Mrs. Patterson's number from the neighborhood directory. She was standing right there. She saw the boxes on the lawn. She heard every word. Witnesses remember. That night, Marco Castillo spread a yellow legal pad across Donna's kitchen table and sat across from me like a mechanic showing you what's wrong under the hood. 3 moves, he said. Each one is separate, each one is legal, and each one is going to get his attention. He held up one finger. First, illegal lockout complaint. Your state requires a minimum 30-day written notice to terminate a tenancy at will. He gave you 0. That's a statutory violation. The court can award damages plus penalties. Second finger. Small claims court. You're owed $43,200 in rent paid without a lease or legal tenancy agreement. The state cap for small claims is $10,000, so we file there first. The rest can go to civil court later. Third finger. IRS Form 211. Whistleblower report. He received $43,000 in rental income over 3 years and, I'd bet my briefcase, reported none of it. That's unreported taxable income. I stared at the pad. 3 bullet points, 3 lines that could dismantle my father's entire sense of authority. The IRS won, I said quietly. That could destroy him. Marco didn't blink. He didn't hesitate when he threw your life on the lawn. Donna set a glass of water in front of me. You're not being cruel, Whitney. You're being accurate. I opened my laptop. The folder was already built. I'd been organizing it since Tuesday night. 36 Zelle screenshots. Bank statements with matching dates. The text from Gerald. Rent's due by the 5th. The lockout text. Your room is Megan's now. A timeline of events, handwritten, dated. Marco looked through every file. When he finished, he closed the laptop and nodded. Print everything. 2 copies. We go to the notary Thursday morning. I called Grandma Ruth on Thursday afternoon. She picked up the way she always does, mid-sentence, like the conversation started before the phone rang. I already heard Gerald's version, sweetheart. Let me guess. You left because you're ungrateful and jealous of your sister. I almost laughed. Almost. That's not what happened, Grandma. I know it's not. I know my son-in-law. He tells people what makes him look good. Been doing it since the day he married your mother. I told her everything. The locks, the text, the lawn, the boxes in the dew. She was quiet the whole time. Grandma Ruth doesn't interrupt. She collects. When I finished, she said something I didn't expect. He did the same thing to his brother, you know. I didn't know. Eddie. Gerald's younger brother. They inherited their mother's duplex together. 50-50 split. Gerald moved in, started making decisions without Eddie, and when Eddie disagreed, Gerald changed the locks on his half. Told the whole family Eddie abandoned the property. Eddie didn't fight it. Lost his share. Hasn't spoken to Gerald in 15 years. She let that sit. Don't do what Eddie did, honey. Eddie stayed quiet. Lost everything. My throat tightened. I'm not staying quiet. Good. Then she said something that hit harder than all of it. Your mother called me last night. She knows it's wrong, Whitney. She knows. She just won't say it out loud. My mother knew. She knew, and she let it happen. She watched Gerald change the locks and haul my things to the lawn, and she chose peace with him over justice for me. That was the part that hurt more than the locks, more than the text, more than the dew on my graduation photos. My mother's silence. Megan's engagement party was Saturday night. 30 guests. The house lit up like a magazine spread. String lights on the porch, a welcome sign with Tyler and Megan in gold calligraphy, cars lining both sides of the street. I wasn't invited. I found out because Aunt Sandra accidentally included me on a group text with the address and time. She deleted it 30 seconds later, but I saw it. I didn't go. I didn't drive by. I sat in Donna's guest room and watched the clock. At 8:47 p.m., my phone lit up. Instagram notification. My cousin Jamie, 19, Sandra's youngest, posted a story from inside the party. I tapped it. There was Gerald standing in the living room holding a champagne flute giving a toast. The camera was shaky, the audio tinny, but I heard every word. Family is everything, he said, smiling. We take care of each other in this house. 30 people raised their glasses. Behind him, through the open door of what used to be my room, I could see the new curtains, Tyler's desk, a framed photo of Megan and Tyler on the wall where my nursing school diploma used to hang. Gerald lifted his glass higher. Megan, sweetheart, you deserve the world. This house will always be your home. This house will always be your home. He'd never said that to me. In 26 years. In $43,200. Not once. I watched the story twice. Then I closed Instagram and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere across town, in a house I'd helped pay for, my father was toasting to family. In a room he stole from me. In front of 30 people who didn't know, or didn't care, that his older daughter was sitting alone in a borrowed bed. He toasted to family. In the room he took from me. Jamie called me Sunday morning. She sounded uncomfortable, like someone carrying a plate they know they're about to drop. I need to tell you something, Whit, about what Uncle Gerald said at the party. Tell me. He stood up during the toast and told everyone you moved out because you wanted independence. Said you didn't even bother to congratulate your sister. His exact words. I closed my eyes. Aunt Sandra backed him up. She said, "Some children only think about themselves." And Uncle Rick just nodded like it was a fact. Did anyone ask about me, my side? No, nobody. Jamie's voice dropped. It was messed up, Whit. Everyone just believed him. I sat on the edge of the bed and pressed my palm flat against my knee to stop it from bouncing. There's one more thing, Jamie said. Tyler was talking to Rick's son about the room. He called it huge, said it was perfect for a home office. He was bragging about it. A home office. Not even a nursery, not a room for a future child. Tyler, a car salesman who'd known my family for 11 months, was sitting at a desk in a room I'd paid rent on for 3 years, and he was bragging about the square footage. My father didn't just give away my room. He gave away my name at a party I wasn't invited to. He rewrote 3 years of rent payments into a story about a selfish daughter who couldn't be happy for her sister. And he thought that was the end of it. He thought I'd swallow it the way I'd swallowed everything else. He was about to find out what happens when the quiet daughter stops swallowing. Monday morning, 6:12 a.m. I'd just come off another night shift, 14 hours this time, a pileup on the interstate. My hands still smelled like betadine. I sat at Donna's kitchen table and opened my laptop. The folder sat on the desktop. I'd named it simply, Case. 36 Zelle screenshots, bank statements with highlighted transactions, Gerald's texts, screenshotted, time-stamped, backed up to the cloud. The notarized copies Marco helped me prepare. A handwritten timeline of every event since March 11th. Donna came downstairs at 6:30. She saw me sitting there, still in scrubs, staring at the screen. She didn't ask if I was okay. She poured 2 cups of coffee, set one in front of me, and sat down. We didn't talk. She just sat there. Sometimes that's what courage looks like, someone sitting next to you while you decide. At 6:45, I called Marco. I'm ready. He didn't hesitate. Courthouse opens at 8:30. I showered. I put on clean scrubs, the only professional clothes I had that weren't wrinkled in a garbage bag. I dried my hair. I looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't want revenge. I wanted what I was owed. There's a difference. Revenge is loud. Revenge is a phone call at midnight, a scene at a party, a post on Facebook. What I wanted was paperwork, documentation, a judge reading the word rent 36 times in a row and asking my father to explain. I picked up the folder. Donna stood at the door. I'll be here when you get back. I drove to the courthouse with the windows down. March air, cold and sharp. My hands were steady on the wheel. They'd been steady all night. They weren't going to shake now. The county courthouse is a squat brick building on Elm Street with a metal detector at the front door and fluorescent lights that make everyone look tired. I got there at 8:22. There were 4 people ahead of me at the clerk's window. I stood in line holding a manila envelope thick enough to feel important. My scrubs still had the hospital crease. When I reached the counter, a woman with reading glasses and a name tag that said Dolores looked at me the way clerks look at everyone. Patient, flat, ready to be bored. What are we filing today? 3 things, I said. An unlawful eviction complaint, a small claims petition, and I need the forms for an IRS whistleblower report. Dolores raised an eyebrow. Just one. I opened the envelope and laid it out. The Zelle screenshots, 36 pages, chronological. The text messages, printed and notarized. The bank statements, the timeline. She put on her reading glasses and leafed through the stack. Slowly, carefully, page by page. "This is your father?" she asked, reading the text. "Your room is Megan's now." "Yes, ma'am." She looked up at me, not with pity, with something that almost looked like respect. "This is more documentation than most people bring for a divorce. You have a paper trail most landlord-tenant attorneys would envy." "He created it himself," I said. "Every Zelle memo says rent. Every text confirms the arrangement." Dolores nodded. "Small claims cap in this state is $10,000. You'll want to look into civil court for the remainder." "I know. This is the start." She stamped the first form, then the second, then the third. "There's a statutory penalty for unlawful lockout," she said, "on top of whatever damages you're awarded." I signed my name 3 times. My hand didn't shake once. Friday. 4 days later. I wasn't there when it happened. I was at work. Another night shift, another 12 hours of beeping monitors and fluorescent mercy. But Marco called me at 9:14 a.m. with the update. The sheriff's deputy arrived at Gerald's house at 8:45 in the morning. A marked car, a uniform, broad daylight. Gerald was in the driveway, loading folding chairs into the garage, leftover from the engagement party, still not put away. Uncle Rick was on the porch, drinking coffee. Aunt Sandra was visible through the kitchen window. The deputy walked up the driveway, paperwork in hand. "Gerald Warren?" "Yeah?" "You've been served." Gerald took the papers. According to Rick, who told Sandra, who told Jamie, who told me, Gerald's face went red before he even finished the first page. He flipped through the stack, standing right there in the driveway. Unlawful eviction complaint. Small claims summons for $10,000. And the IRS referral notice. He sat down on the porch steps, hard, like his knees just quit. Rick set down his coffee mug. "Gerald, what is it?" Gerald didn't answer. He just kept staring at the papers, turning them over and over, like reading them again might change what they said. Sandra came out the front door. "What's going on? Who was that?" Gerald looked up. His voice cracked on the first word. "She's suing me. My own daughter is suing me." For 30 years, Gerald Warren's word had been law in that family. He decided who ate where at Thanksgiving. He decided when the porch light went off. He decided whose room belonged to whom. On Friday morning, standing in his own driveway with his coffee getting cold, he found out the actual law disagreed. My phone didn't stop ringing all day Friday. Uncle Rick called first. I picked up. "Whitney, what did you do?" "I filed what was legal and accurate, Uncle Rick." "He's your father." "And I was his tenant. For 3 years." He hung up. Aunt Sandra called my mother. My mother called me, crying. Not angry crying, just the helpless kind. The sound of a woman who's spent 30 years avoiding the exact moment she's standing in. "Whitney, please, can you take it back?" "There's nothing to take back, Mom. It's filed." Then Megan. Her voice came through the phone like a car alarm. "You're ruining my engagement. You know that, right? This is about you being jealous. It's always been about you being jealous. This is about $43,000 and an illegal eviction. I'll see Dad in court, Megan." She sputtered something about me being selfish and dramatic. I said goodbye and set the phone on the nightstand. Gerald called last. 9:18 p.m. He didn't yell. That surprised me. His voice was tight, pressurized. The voice of a man trying very hard not to scream. "You bring the IRS into my house? Into my house? You brought my belongings onto the lawn. Same energy, Dad. That money was between us. It wasn't income." I was quiet for a moment. Then, "I'd be careful saying that out loud." He didn't know I was recording. My state allows one-party consent. Every word he'd just said, that money was between us, it wasn't income, was now a time-stamped audio file confirming he received the payments and considered them unreportable. I gave him 3 years of respect. He gave me a text message. We were done negotiating. 3 weeks later, small claims courtroom, 2nd floor, room 204. It was smaller than I expected. No jury box, no gallery, just rows of wooden benches, a raised desk for the judge, and 2 tables facing forward. It smelled like floor polish and old paper. Gerald sat at the respondent's table alone. No lawyer. He'd told Rick he didn't need one. I'm not hiring an attorney to fight my own kid. I sat at the petitioner's table with my manila folder and a printed timeline. Marco had prepped me but couldn't represent me in small claims. It's self-represented only in our jurisdiction. He sat in the benches behind me. Behind Gerald, Carol, clutching her purse like a flotation device. Megan, arms crossed, jaw tight. And in the last row, Grandma Ruth. She'd taken an Uber. Nobody had invited her. Nobody had told her the date. She found out from Jamie and came anyway. Judge Hernandez was a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and reading glasses she looked over, not through. Ms. Warren, present your case. I laid out 36 Zelle transactions, each one printed, dated, highlighted. Each memo. Rent. I showed the text messages. I showed the timeline. I spoke for 11 minutes without raising my voice. Judge Hernandez turned to Gerald. Mr. Warren, did your daughter pay you $1,200 a month? Gerald shifted in his chair. She was helping with the house. It wasn't rent. The judge picked up the printed text message and read it aloud. Rent's due by the 5th. Don't be late again. She looked at him over her glasses. You used the word rent, Mr. Warren. She used the word rent. The transfers say rent. By any reasonable standard, this was a tenancy. Gerald opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Judge Hernandez didn't deliberate long. I'm ruling in favor of the petitioner. Mr. Warren, you established a month-to-month tenancy through your own words and conduct. You terminated that tenancy without legal notice. You performed an unlawful lockout. You are ordered to pay $10,000, the statutory maximum in this court, in damages, plus the lockout penalty as provided under state statute. She set down her pen. Ms. Warren, you may pursue the remaining balance through civil court. Gerald stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. This is family business, not court business. Judge Hernandez didn't blink. It became court business when you changed the locks, Mr. Warren. Sit down. He sat. Behind me, I heard Carol make a small sound. Not a word, just a breath that caught. Megan was crying silently, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Not for me, for the scene, for the fact that people she knew were in this room, hearing these numbers. But the moment I'll carry with me happened in the back row. Grandma Ruth stood up slowly, 79 years old, bad hip, holding the bench for balance. She walked forward, past Carol, past Megan, until she was standing beside me at the petitioner's table. She didn't say anything, she just took my hand. Her fingers were cool and steady. Then she turned around and looked at Carol. I raised you better than this, Carol. You watched it happen. My mother's face crumbled. She looked down at her lap. She didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She just sat there, holding her purse, shrinking. Megan stared at the wall. Gerald stared at the floor. Grandma Ruth squeezed my hand. Her voice was low, just for me. Your grandfather would be proud of you, Whitney. That's when I cried. The courtroom was one kind of reckoning. The IRS was another. 6 weeks after the hearing, Gerald opened his mailbox and found a plain white envelope. No logo on the outside. Just a return address in Austin, Texas, and the words, Internal Revenue Service, printed in small, unassuming type. He told Carol it was probably a mistake. It wasn't. The IRS opened an audit on 3 years of Gerald's tax returns. $43,200 in unreported rental income. Not declared, not filed, not mentioned on a single 1040 he'd submitted. Marco explained the math to me over the phone, clinically, the way a doctor reads lab results. Unpaid federal tax on the unreported income, approximately $11,000. Penalties for failure to report, another $4,000 to $6,000. Interest accrued over 3 years, roughly $2,000 more. Total estimated liability, somewhere between $17,000 and $22,000. And that was just the IRS. Gerald still owed the $10,000 from small claims, and I hadn't filed the civil court case yet. He had to hire a CPA, a certified public accountant, to represent him in the audit. That alone cost $4,000. Gerald Warren, the man who wouldn't spend $40 on a can of paint for my ceiling, was now writing checks to accountants and watching his savings account bleed. Jamie told me Gerald tried to borrow money from Uncle Rick. Rick said no. I've got my own bills, Gerald. The man who told me to figure it out was now the one who couldn't. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post about it. I didn't even tell Donna right away. I sat in my car after Marco's call and watched the parking lot for a while. It didn't feel good, but it felt right. Word travels fast in families. It travels faster in neighborhoods. Cousin Jamie, God bless that kid, didn't name names on Facebook, but she didn't have to. Her post read, "Some people learn that my house, my rules doesn't work when the law has different rules." 47 reactions, 12 comments. Everyone in the family knew who she meant. Aunt Sandra went quiet. The woman who'd texted me, "Just be happy for your sister," 2 weeks earlier now had nothing to say. She didn't call Gerald. She didn't call me. She just disappeared into that comfortable silence people retreat to when they realize they picked the wrong side. Uncle Rick stopped coming over for poker night, but the neighborhood was the part Gerald didn't see coming. Mrs. Patterson, the witness, the azalea lady, the woman who watched him perform tough love while my belongings sat on wet grass, talked, not maliciously, just factually. She told the Hendersons next door. The Hendersons told the Coopers. By the end of the month, half the block knew Gerald Warren had locked his rent-paying daughter out of the house and gotten served by the sheriff in his own driveway. Gerald wasn't invited to the summer block party. First time in 11 years. Carol stopped leaving the house for 2 weeks. She had groceries delivered, and then the last domino. Tyler Brooks, Megan's fiancé, the car salesman with the home office in my old room, started asking questions. "Maybe we should get our own place," he told Megan. "I don't want to start a marriage in a house with this kind of drama." Megan and Tyler postponed the wedding. Not for money. Not because of me. Because Tyler didn't want to begin his life in a house that had become a courtroom exhibit. Megan blamed Gerald. My mother called on a Thursday. Her voice sounded 10 years older. "Can we talk? Just us, please." We met at a coffee shop off Route 6. Neutral ground. Public enough that neither of us could fall apart too badly. She was already sitting in a booth when I arrived, holding a mug she wasn't drinking from. "Your father is struggling," she said. "The IRS thing is eating him alive." I wrapped my hands around my own mug. "He threw my life on the lawn, Mom, while I was saving lives at the hospital. He thought you'd understand. He thought I'd be quiet. There's a difference." Carol stared into her coffee. Her eyes were red, but the tears had already happened. Probably in the car, probably alone. She looked like a woman who'd spent 30 years building a house on someone else's foundation and just felt the first crack. "I should have said something," she said. "I was afraid of him." "I know you were. I'm not saying that to make an excuse. I'm just telling you what's true." "I believe you, Mom, but you still let it happen," she cried. Quietly, the way people cry in coffee shops, tucked in, contained, embarrassed. I didn't reach across the table, not because I was punishing her, because comfort from me right now would have let her off the hook, and she needed to sit in it. "I love you," I said. "I do. But I can't come back to a house where my worth is measured by how much I give up." She wiped her eyes with a paper napkin. "When did you get so strong?" "I'm not strong, Mom. I'm just done paying the price for being easy to ignore." She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Maybe she was. 3 months later. I signed a lease, a real one, with my name printed on every page, for a 1-bedroom apartment 6 blocks from St. Mary's. Ground floor, 12 minutes to work, rent, $890 a month, less than what I paid my father. The small claims check, $10,000, cleared the same week. I used it for first and last month's rent, a security deposit, a mattress, and a second-hand kitchen table. The rest went into savings, my savings, in my name, under my control. Donna helped me move in. She showed up with her minivan, 3 laundry baskets of donated kitchenware, and a 6-pack of ginger ale because champagne is for closers and you're not done yet. I set up the bedroom first, hung the curtains Donna found at Goodwill, arranged my nursing books on a shelf that didn't belong to anyone else. Saturday afternoon, there was a knock. I opened the door and found Grandma Ruth standing in the hallway, holding a lamp. It was brass, old with a green glass shade. The cord had been rewired, probably twice. "This was mine when I first lived on my own," she said. 1967. "I want you to have it." I plugged it in that night. It cast a warm amber circle on the kitchen table, the kind of light that makes even a small room feel like home. That evening, I sat at my table, in my apartment, behind my lock, and ate dinner alone. Leftover soup and toast, nothing special. But the quiet was different here. It wasn't the quiet of being overlooked. It wasn't the quiet of keeping the peace. It was the quiet of ownership. $1,200 a month used to go to a man who didn't see me. Now it pays for a place that's mine. Gerald called on a Sunday night, 7:14 p.m. I almost didn't pick up. Not out of anger. I was past that. More like the way you hesitate before opening a door you've already decided to walk through. I answered. "Whitney." His voice was different. Not soft. Gerald Warren doesn't do soft. But the edges were filed down. The command was gone. "Hi, Dad. I didn't think you'd go this far. I didn't think you'd throw my things on the lawn." He exhaled. A long one. The kind of breath that carries something heavy out. "I was trying to do right by your sister. By doing wrong by me." Silence. 5 seconds. 6. I let it sit. I didn't fill it. "The IRS wants $22,000, he said finally. He said it the way someone says they have a diagnosis. Flat, factual, still in shock. "I'm sorry to hear that, Dad. I really am." "Are you?" "Yes. I don't want you to suffer. I never wanted that." More silence. I heard the TV in the background. ESPN, a basketball game, the soundtrack of every evening I ever spent in that house. "I hope you figure it out," I said. "I mean that. But I'm not coming back." He didn't say, "I love you." He didn't say, "I'm sorry." He didn't say, "You'll regret this." He just breathed on the other end of the line. "All right," he said, and hung up. It was the most honest word he'd spoken to me in years. Not an apology, not a surrender, just, "All right." An acknowledgement that the ground had shifted, and he couldn't shift it back. I set the phone down and looked at Ruth's lamp glowing on the table. For the first time in months, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I just felt finished. People ask me if I regret it. I do. I regret the 3 years I spent believing that silence would be rewarded. I regret every morning I made breakfast for a house that treated my labor like air. Present, necessary, invisible. I regret the $43,000, sure. But more than the money, I regret the version of myself who thought if I just tried harder, gave more, complained less, my father would finally look at me the way he looked at Megan. That version of me is gone. I let her go on a Tuesday morning in March, sitting on a cold porch step in scrubs that smelled like a 14-hour shift. My father isn't a monster. I want to be clear about that. He's a man who confused love with control and gratitude with obedience. He built a family where his word was final, and when someone challenged it, legally, calmly, with 36 receipts, his whole kingdom shook. I hope he learns the difference. But teaching him isn't my job anymore. If you're listening to this in a house where your kindness is being used as currency, where your silence is someone else's comfort, I want you to hear me say something nobody said to me. Keep your receipts, know your rights. And remember that setting a boundary with your family isn't betrayal. It's the first thing you build when you finally decide to build for yourself. I'm sitting at my kitchen table right now. Grandma Ruth's lamp is on. The apartment is quiet. The lock on the door is mine. The locks are mine now. If you were in my shoes, would you have filed those papers? Or tried to keep the peace? Drop a com for courthouse or a mom for peace. And if someone you know needs to hear this story, share it with them. More stories like this one are waiting for you in the description below. I'll see you in the next one.